Chapter 6, Book of Georgia. How you feel it and experience it is how you choose to feel it and experience it. Source. It was a lovely warm Thursday afternoon, and I had fallen asleep while in the middle of a book study group. When I woke up, the book study had ended, and just a few remained in the circle. Sitting next to me was a lady I did not know, who apparently arrived during the latter part of the book study. Introductions were made, and I learned that her name was Ukulele. During the conversation within the circle, it was mentioned that my husband of more than 40 years had passed a few months earlier. Ukulele then shared that her husband had passed 2 years ago. We spoke of many things, including our astonishment at how deep the emotions ran and continued to exist. Ukulele explained how she had worked as a hospice nurse for many years, and even with her experience, she was surprised at how unprepared she was at the time of her husband's death. Someone handed Ukulele a cup of tea while pleasant small talk continued. Ukulele then looked over at me and said shyly, "May I share with you? I love to share." I said yes, of course, eager to talk with her about our shared experience. She began to speak, and I realized she was channeling messages directly from my husband. Needless to say, I was stunned. I was familiar with the possibility of such things happening, but I had not directly experienced this before. There was no question that it was Tom, my husband, who was sharing with me. I could feel his presence in my body, heart, and soul. I had never stopped experiencing his love after he passed. It had always been present. However, this moment was reaching and touching me on a more personal level. When I tell this story, everyone, of course, wants to know what he said, and that's the amusing part. I don't remember much. However, I recall it began with an intense expression of love. There was laughter and tears in the exchange. At some point, Ukulele made a comment or two such as, "My goodness, he has a real sense of humor, doesn't he?" It was extraordinarily powerful. By this time, all in the circle were listening, including my daughter. When the Tom visit ended, my daughter asked about her uncle, my brother. The experience with my brother was, in many ways, more profound than the Tom exchange. Many in the family, especially my daughter, had a challenging relationship with my brother. When our connection with him occurred, it was deeply loving and profoundly beautiful. It touched my daughter and me very deeply. I feel so blessed for this experience and of reaching him across the veil and witnessing firsthand the love and joy he shared with us. I shed more tears during this time with my brother than I did sharing with my husband. The overall experience of reaching my husband and brother across the veil was transformational, incredible, and filled me with utter joy. You have created that which I have not. It's not there, but you are insisting it is there. Source. Over recent months, there has been many precious moments of sitting in the circle, where Tom has delivered messages. One time, Ukulele said, "Your husband wants you to know that he now understands what you were trying to tell him." I believe this refers to his being a scientist and an agnostic, and my having been a perpetual seeker for that whom I now call Source. What I am about to share here is probably the most intense exchange which occurred between Tom and me during the circle interactions. As the circle shared on the topic of appreciation for loved ones across the veil, I felt an inner urge to share about Tom and the final months before his passing. Tom's health problem first appeared as a sore shoulder after living a hefty rock. It was diagnosed as a torn rotator cuff that would take 2 to 4 months to heal. However, the expecting healing did not occur. We soon learned that his shoulder pain was actually due to cancer that had spread to the bone. The only comfortable place for him was in the living room on his lazy boy lounge chair, where he slept from January until June, when a hospice bed was brought into our home. We had not slept in our bed together since the onset of Tom's shoulder pain. I remember thinking that when he passed, I would climb into that hospice bed and hug him one last time. While many loving family members assisted with his final care, I spent a lot of time crying in another room and sat by him only when I was centered, because I knew crying distressed him. 2 days before he passed, he was very weak. He could no longer eat, drink, or speak, and his eyes were mostly closed. He remained raised up in bed, with his left arm protected at all times to alleviate the shoulder pain. I was sitting next to him when suddenly he lifted that arm and grabbed my hand. He held it with such intensity that I could feel the energy surge throughout my entire being. Every possible communication, physical and non-physical, took place in that moment. It was whole and complete. As I finished sharing this with the circle, Ku'ule spoke. He is so happy to hear this. He is so happy to know that you understood what he was telling you in that moment. I had been crying while telling the story to the circle, and of course it intensified as Ku'ule shared Tom's thoughts with me. She said, "Now he is crying with you." She continued, "It is very difficult to experience things of the physical body once it is past, but he is crying with you. Now he understands crying. Now he knows crying is okay." When we shared our life together, Tom had not understood the level of healing that crying can offer. As I joyously soaked up these moments of love and the surprising communication with my husband, he delivered another message. He shared that whenever I needed to, I could hold my hands together very tightly, just as he held mine before he passed, and there would be that connection once again. He asked me to do it right there and then in the circle. I was in such a daze that others in the room had to assist me in comprehending and acting. I did it that day in the circle, and today I do it often. I must say, Tom's and my ongoing connection thrills me and offers me enormous comfort and great joy every day of my life. Let go. Let be. Let everyone be who they are. Source. Kayem, a dear friend of mine, was a spiritual mentor to me as well as to many others. Kayem worked with alcoholics, drug addicts, and their families. She was extremely loving and nurturing to many people. In return, she was loved and admired by many. I, too, loved and admired my dear friend. Kayem was a very busy woman with a husband and family at home, while attending to a vocation ministering many people. She was very much in demand, and over time, she and I lost touch. When I tried to find Kayem a few years later, I learned she had lost sobriety, succumbed to drugs, and to my shock and horror, had committed suicide. The news of Kayem's death and her difficult passing haunted me for years. In the circle one day, not long after meeting Ku'ule, I asked about my dear friend Kayem. The spirit of Kayem quickly revealed herself. She shared with the circle that she was feeling confused and unable to move forward to experience her new world of existence. There was a sense of unfinished business on earth. During our exchange, Source spoke to Kayem. "You do not need to return because you have done nothing wrong. You can return if you wish, but you are not required to do so. You have done nothing wrong." I explained to the circle that Kayem had committed suicide, an action considered particularly sinful in the Catholic tradition, and Khayyam was a devout Catholic. Source then spoke in a loud, bold voice. "Who told you suicide was wrong? I did not. You did not hear that from me." This message seemed to penetrate throughout the room and out into the heavens. It was undeniable that this message touched many souls in that moment, and in that holy moment, I experienced and felt Khayyam's beautiful soul and knew in my heart that she was completely free. Simultaneously, I felt hundreds and possibly thousands of souls across the veil being released from a state where they had been stuck because of an enormous belief, an erroneous belief, that they had done something wrong. This message was also profoundly healing to those of us in the room. Many people in this world have had a connection with someone who has taken his or her own life, and some of us have even considered this action ourselves. What a beautiful message to the world. Source truly has no judgment. Source sees only our pure innocence. Recognizing Source's presence in the room as we sit in the circle week after week has been indeed a blessing. These group meetings have taught me the value of coming together and uplifting each other in support when it is most needed. I now see how each and every one of us has value far greater than we can imagine. If only we can stand back and see our own value from afar, we will be astounded at how amazing we each truly are. I am thankful for this gift I have found in myself and in those around me. It is a gift that is found when we embrace each other in an understanding that we are ultimately all on the same journey and ultimately all going to the same place. Be still and know that I am Source. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Love, Georgia.